Okay, so first of all, I'll talk about the key features, what you can do with LinkedIn, especially if you don't have it, or even if you do have it. One tool we can use for job searching. So you'll notice the bar at the top of the page that looks like this. And just to get an idea, raise your hand if you've used this function. Keep your hand up if you've found many useful jobs. Not so many. Okay. So obviously with LinkedIn, it depends on the types of word that you're searching. So we have to be quite careful there. You'll find that in different jobs at different countries, they have different names for different jobs, first of all. So for example, if I say teacher, tell me another word for teacher. Educator, yeah. College. Coach, yeah. Instructor. Already we've got a lot of words for the same role, right? For teachers, you can generally find it as teacher, but just think of what job are you applying for? Are there different names for it, first of all? And then you've got where it tells you, again, the city or so. So just be aware that you might be limiting your search with certain words. Experiment, that's my advice. But also be specific. If you give it too many words, it won't come up with many results. Okay. LinkedIn remembers as well. So if you start searching for a job, give me an example. A bakery is a place, right? But like in a bakery, you might have a sales assistant. If you start, or in HR, if you start searching for sales assistant, LinkedIn will start showing you more sales assistant jobs, right? So just focus on what kind of jobs you want and then go from there. You can, of course, keep searching after that, but LinkedIn will start giving you alerts about certain types of jobs you're looking for. That's another feature you can use to set up. You can only set up 20 alerts, so think carefully if you're just applying for any kind of job. Maybe choose ones, be selective with which ones you really want instead of just doing it for fun, okay? How many of you have heard of the easy apply option on LinkedIn? Okay. Keep your hand up if you've had much success. No? Okay. Well, a couple of things to be aware of is, well, you have two approaches. You can upload your own CV. Please check the formatting before you do that and use a PDF just to make sure it appears correctly. Another way is to use your LinkedIn CV. But be careful with this because it can sometimes look like a bit of a mess. I would go with the first option if I were you. And just remember to check the format before you send it. A lot of people don't. You'll be surprised. The other thing you need to remember is sometimes it says easy apply, but if you read the job description, it asks you for a cover letter. And I know because I'm currently hiring for roles and people don't read that part. And here's the thing. On LinkedIn, you cannot submit a cover letter. So it's a bit of a trick, if you know what I mean. So what you need to do is if you find a job and it says add a cover letter, but you can't do that on LinkedIn, you need to go back to Google, search for where the job appears, perhaps on Indeed or something like that, where you can use add a cover letter. Because some employers will look and they'll say no cover letter. They won't even look at your CV, okay? And sometimes they ask questions, key questions with a star that you must answer. They might be questions like, do you have a visa to work here? Again, so many people don't answer these or they put no. And then, if you're saying no to a must-have, it's not worth your time, right? if it's a must-have. Some jobs, they say experience may be necessary. Okay. But if it's a must-have and you don't have it, just move on to another one, okay? Save yourself the heartache. How do you know if the jobs you're looking for? Look at your LinkedIn. Because not every field cares about LinkedIn, right? It is useful, it's growing, but some jobs, they don't care. That's okay. But for jobs that do care, you can actually find out who's been looking at your profile, right? And this is quite a useful feature. You'll see that it appears like this on your main page, so you can see. Why might you do this? Well, if we know who's visited our profile, you know that if people are looking at your profile, because if they're looking but you're not getting the interview, then you know, okay, maybe I need to do something with my LinkedIn profile. If you're getting interviews, you might not need to worry about your LinkedIn, okay? You don't need the premium account for these features. I'm the kind of person that likes free stuff. And if I tell you about stuff, it will usually be free because I know most people don't want to pay for things if they can. A lot of the features on LinkedIn, you don't need to pay for. They're nice to have, but for $25 a month, probably not worth it. LinkedIn will probably hate me right now. Certificates. So these are other things that you can upload onto LinkedIn to just show that you have certain skills. Check you have the correct details. So you can see in this photo, some of them might appear without the picture. And this, just affects how people see your profile. You probably might agree that this one looks more legitimate and more professional. So if you can, when you're typing in the details of it, LinkedIn will have a feature where you can choose. Unfortunately, it doesn't have all of them listed on there, but just check to see it is so you get a picture there. You might want to include a web link to your certificate because some employers may want to see evidence before they invite you into interview. Because as a recruiter, the last thing you want is to invite someone to interview and find out they don't have the qualifications. It's a waste of time for everybody, right? And you can get certificates on LinkedIn. This is one reason that you might want to pay for premium. But if you have a job already, find out in your workplace if they have a subscription to LinkedIn. I was working in my last job for 6 years, and now after 2 years, I realized, wait, LinkedIn's free. They didn't tell me. I had to find out. So ask your company. They may not think to tell you. They may forget. I'm sure they didn't mean to do that. But, just if you don't ask, you don't get, right? Also, you can join different groups. This is useful because then you can see people in your field, and they post about jobs often in certain groups. So it's another way, another channel for you to find jobs, and for people to see you. And yeah, just be careful with adding people. It's a bit different to Facebook. You don't want to just be adding anybody. Why not? Why wouldn't you just add anybody you see on LinkedIn? I'm guessing you do this. Well, if you get similar on Facebook, right? If you just got loads of different random people, every day in your feed, you'll see just random people talk about stuff, and then you'll not see the information that you want or need. So don't just add anybody, but try and pick people that are relevant to where you want to go. And, if people see you just randomly adding, they might not accept your connection request anyway. They also have a catch-up feature. This is quite a new feature. If somebody in your connections is hiring, you will get a notification in case you don't see it on your main page. So go on to LinkedIn if you have it, go to catch up and turn it on. But under catch up, they also have tell me about people's birthdays. Tell me about people's... You want to switch that off, right? Because then it will be like Facebook. And then you'll probably see too much spam and not use it. Okay, so what really matters when you're using LinkedIn? Profile picture. Why do we need one? Yeah, unfortunately, in the online world, first impressions, that's one of them. So unfortunately, it does matter. Surprising number of people don't have profile pictures, and then employers might think they're bots. That's another problem. So what should it look like? About that one. Again, you'll be surprised what kind of profile pictures you see. I mean, no problem to have a picture like this on Facebook or so, but, LinkedIn is particularly for people that want to get jobs, right? And find people who want jobs. So what you might look for is something white, clear background. That's as most professional as you can get with that. Not too far away, not too close. Check the lighting is right. Because, again, if it's a dark picture and a poor quality, people might think they do things to a poor quality. You'll be surprised. Us humans can be very judgmental, especially online. You might have seen this green banner before. Hands up if you think it's a good idea. Hands up if you think it's a bad idea. Oh, okay, not so. I was expecting 50-50. Some people say, it makes you look desperate. Some people say, well, if people know, then they know and they can tell people. It's not clear which one's better, which one's worse, okay? So if you're in a job already, you might not want your boss to see. There is a feature on LinkedIn that you can select where it is recruiters only. So just check that one. And then only hiring managers and recruiters can see your green banner. And it is useful for them because if I see a picture, if I'm trying to decide between these two people and I need someone to start in 2 weeks, who am I going to approach first, do you think? If it was you. Is my hearing gone? What? You might pick the one with the green banner because you're more likely, perhaps, to get a response. But again, it's 50-50, the debate. And you might have seen the purple banner. That means somebody's looking for roles. So these could be good people to connect with, recruiters, just to have in your radar on your newsfeed. Connections, followers. Why do they matter? What does it matter if you have a lot of connections on LinkedIn? And if somebody has like 10? Why does that matter? How? That's one benefit, yeah. Anything else? Think of how LinkedIn works. How does Facebook work? How does Instagram work? People with the most followers tend to have... They're put at the top of news feeds, right? And that's similar in LinkedIn. So what I would say is if you aim for a minimum of 500, then it doesn't matter more than that. If you get that status, it just means you're going to show up higher for hiring managers, recruiters, anybody looking. It's just how LinkedIn works, right? Same as Facebook. You get people that are famous, they're going to get most page views because they'll show up at the top of LinkedIn. So think of how many you've got. If you don't have many, 500 seems a bit much. You might want to add 1 or 2 every day just to make it a bit more manageable. Else you might never do it. Activity, posting on LinkedIn. Why is that important? A live person, not a bot. But yeah, you can also see if you're active. If you're trying to change field, right? Some people want to see, okay, they don't have the experience, but I'm thinking about them, and, it might help. If you're active and you're adding the right people, you'll just appear in their newsfeed before you've even applied for a job, before you've asked anybody or told anybody. You'll just be there. And they're seeing what you do before they even see your CV. So it's just another thing to think about. So that's what the activity might look like. However, be careful, because comments on other posts. If I just click on this button, I can see all your comments on other people's posts on LinkedIn. Some people get very personal on LinkedIn and like to start arguments and like to talk about politics. Okay, if you want to talk about politics, that's your interest, that's okay. Should it be on LinkedIn? No, there's other spaces for that. The thing is, you might have heard employers might check your Facebook and that these days. It's more likely to be LinkedIn if they're looking for somebody to hire. So just remember, anything that you've said that might have been not very nice, you might want to go back and delete it, or just not do it on LinkedIn, because people can find what you did. I don't think they have that feature on Facebook, do they? No, so yeah, it would probably be chaos. It's particularly if you're making a career transition. You need to do everything that you can to work with what you've got. Don't focus on what you haven't got. Work with what you've got, okay? Skills. These also matter, because when people are looking for jobs on LinkedIn, they'll type in certain role names and skill sets. So on your profile, you can choose up to 50 skills, but this is from my page. What's the problem here? Yeah, I know that you can click on here. Do you think many people will make the effort? No. People are lazy these days, and I think they're only getting lazier. Remember, with your experience section, your skills section, it will only show the top two bullet points. So make sure you put the most important stuff at the top, because people won't click on that, see more. They might, but people are lazy. Some might not. You may also notice endorsements, if you've ever heard of these, and it will appear at the bottom of your skills. You can endorse each other for free. Doesn't cost anything. But then it helps you, if you know what kind of skills you're aiming for and you have some connections, it could be a way that you can help each other out and endorse each other, because it gives what you say some kind of evidence, some kind of proof. Because everybody's going to say they've got the same skills as you. I'm hardworking. I'm a good communicator. Right? Okay, recommendations. Raise your hand if you have any recommendations on your profile. Nice work, yeah. It's another way to show references. Again, you can ask previous managers for this, previous co-workers. Why are they important? I mean, it's a way people can get extra information about you if they're not sure and they don't ask you to interview. Who can write them? Anybody. But, again, people will see what kind of role they have. And, if you're looking for certain roles, you might want to ask certain people instead of just random people. Moving on to the last section, how to network. Even if you hate it. I personally hate networking. You might not believe me because I'm at an event like this, but I find it quite uncomfortable. And yeah, it's just, I think some people are more naturally open to it and comfortable with it. Me, not so much. But yeah, unfortunately, you still have to do a bit, especially if you're changing career. Like, one thing that I learned when I was trying to change career was I spent so many years just doing my job and not networking. And then when I came to change my career, I was like, I don't know anybody in that field. Do it slowly, over time. Even if you're still in your same job, to take some of the pressure off, you can just start networking, build a few connections each day. If you make it a big job, then you won't do it. Or you'll just put it off until later. Here's a few things what not to do when you're networking on LinkedIn. And believe me, people do it. I got a message yesterday asking for a job. Okay, I am actually hiring, but I've had it before where I'm not hiring and I work at a place and someone messages me and just asks for a job. Think about being in my situation. If someone just random, you don't know, messaged you on LinkedIn and said, can you get me a job at your place? Raise your hand if you would be like, yeah. I'm glad that there are nice people in here, but also at the same time, what could be a problem with being nice in that situation? Yeah. And, they might not be a good fit, and then it reflects on you. That's all. So that's why a lot of people won't respond. Unless, of course, you know them, then, why not? Yeah. I mean, if that can be, yes, that's my next point. Yeah, find some kind of connection with somebody that you're trying to, if you want to ask for something, don't go and ask immediately. Spend that time, build that relationship, and people are more likely to get back to you. Try not to ask personal questions. I know that you're trying to build a connection, but again, if people don't know you and you're asking personal, they might think you're a bot or someone trying to hack your information, especially more and more nowadays, like with security threats. And try not to be too general. When people want to change career, they often ask, tell me about your experience, or I can't think of the other one. It's if you ask someone a general question like, tell me about your experience, and I've been working in the field for 20 years, it's difficult for me to answer, right? And if it's difficult for me to answer and a lot of effort and a lot of time, I'm probably not going to answer, especially if I don't know you. But there are nice people out there, fortunately. So to help with that process, it helps to be specific. What are you asking for exactly? Everybody has a different opinion of a type of job. So asking what their opinion is, that's not going to help you. I might like the job, but someone else might not like it, and they'll tell you different things. So what could you do? Make it about them. People love to talk, right? People love to talk about themselves. They do. And give them, if you can give them that space, a lot of people are more likely to open up. Give them a reason to reply. So it might not be so straightforward, and it might depend on location. If I was looking to network with someone in Dublin, I might, if I want to ask them a few questions about their role and how they got into it, I might, say, look, I'll take you for coffee if you can answer just some questions I have. Okay, you cannot take everyone for coffee, but you might think of another benefit that you can have for them. Mentors, mentees, that's another situation. Especially people who have made a career transition, they're often delighted at the fact and very proud and very willing to support people in that process because they know what it's like. And so if we make it about them, you might have heard of informational interviews. Does that sound familiar? So it might be a conversation you have with them to get information, and it might be more like an interview style. You don't want to just meet someone and just say, can we grab a coffee? because then they don't know what to expect. And again, they're more likely to be like, I don't have time. So be specific where you can, but also at the same time, think of a benefit for them. Some people like to be mentors in their position because they can talk about it and use it in their own CV, being a mentor. So, connections. We're coming towards the end. So what I wanted to do to get you started, if you don't have many connections on your LinkedIn, I'd like you to, those who have a LinkedIn profile now, get out your phones. You can add me on there, but at the same time, I want you to turn to the person next to you and add them. And we can start by just, this can be your, let's say, 5 connections for the day. A lot of you are looking at me like I'm a strange person. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, then why don't you spend a minute to just put it on your to-do list and say, I'm going to set this up tomorrow. It doesn't take a long time. And you can start with the basics. So one day you can just do, okay, profile picture. Next day, experience. Experience, by the way, a lot of people could copy and paste from their CV. It doesn't need to be much different. But just remember, the top parts of your experience should be the most important. Okay, I didn't see many people turn to each other to add each other. You don't trust the people next to you, I'm guessing. Okay, well, we can do this while we just go over some question and answers. If you have any questions about what we spoke about today and LinkedIn profiles, feel free to ask questions. While you're waiting, or if you're just waiting for the next talk, you could be adding the person next to you. Oh. So I'm just going to leave that up here. Invite you to ask any questions.